Hey there, guys. It is the Gaming Ronin, or Ronin that, depending on how you know me, whether through the YouTube channel or my Twitch, where I stream Star Wars: The Old Republic operations, either hard mode or nightmare mode. Kind of depends on what my team is doing. But I am finally here with my 7.0 guide for Annihilation. It has taken me quite a bit of time to put this all together and figure out how exactly I want to kind of convey uh, all the things that I've learned over the last uh, 2 months of 7.0 and what's changed and what's remained the same, which a lot has remained the same, but there's also a lot that has changed for Annihilation. So we're going to go ahead and go over that. It's going to be a lengthy one, unfortunately, uh, but hang in there. I'm going to go over each line of rotation with you. Um, you can actually stop if this video now, you can go refer back to my 6.0 guide, as it is a pretty good stepping stone to uh, 7.0. We are still using the same rotation. Um, Fillers are somewhat the same. There is a slight change to our priority system, in my opinion, and I'm going to go over everything with you. What I recommend, how I recommend to kind of set yourself up for success as you progress and get better with Annihilation, because it is still, unfortunately, uh, rather complicated, but I'm going to do my best to make it as uncomplicated as possible. As you can see, there's a lot of gaps in my bars now as compared to when you last saw me in 6.0, as well as some new stuff as well. And so we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. So stick around, there's a lot to go over, but I think this is going to be extremely valuable for the Annihilation community. And everyone that wants to get into using Annihilation. I'm going to give you kind of the easy path, and I'm going to give you the more advanced path. So let's just get started, shall we? Okay, guys. So first things first is we have to talk about our ability tree that has replaced our utilities from 6.0. Things are quite different. We now choose abilities and passives that affect how all of our abilities work. I'm just going to tell you what you should be taking in each line. There are some choices that you have to make. There are some uh, non-choices as well, where no, you're taking this and you don't have a choice in it. So uh, immediately, first line, level 15, you will be given Berserk and Force Rend. From that point, from there, it is level 23. If you are fully max level, which I am expecting you to be max level, if you're looking for a beginner's guide, you just started and you made a brand new tune, I will recommend probably Geo Rend. Just kind of having instant access to 3% more damage and an instant max Julio as you're leveling is pretty good, as well as potentially critical bleeds um, as well. But once you become max level, Draining Center for sure. This is kind of, I would say, our new Holy Trinity. Draining Center, Berserk, and Force Rend. And if you're a Watchman, I don't know what Draining Center is called for the Watchman, but to translate, essentially Zen and Force Melt. And then you will find the ability that has this symbol here, and you will pick that. It will pretty much just say the exact same thing, except instead of Force Rend and Fury, it will say Force Melt and I believe Focus. No, not it's not Focus. I forget what it's called for you guys, but it'll pretty much say along the same things. Activating Force Rend or Force Melt immediately builds 10 Fury, or whatever it is for Watchman, and Force Rend slash Force Melt deals 4 times its initial damage whenever it consumes a stack of Berserk, which is pretty much everything we're now doing. These 3 are what you need. I believe Watchman, it's over here for you. But this is pretty much everything that we're doing now. We can still use the old rotation from 6.0. The only thing that's different is going to be our opener. That's the only real difference. So you can definitely still be successful using the old rotation and still do really, really good. Moving on to line 27. For the most part, it's going to be predation. There's very few fights where you're not going to have this. Sometimes, though, if you don't need predation, you can take overwhelming slashes, not for the immobilization, but for the rage generation that Ravage will generate. It's very useful, especially when combined with one of our legendary implants. You can actually generate just a ton of rage out of nowhere just from using Ravage. So you can make that determination for yourself. Don't ever take this. Predation or overwhelming slashes, most of the time it's going to be predation. Okay? I will tell you that now. This isn't necessary by any stretch of the imagination, but if you don't need predation, if you're being asked to take it off your bars, you can just swap over to overwhelming slashes, and if I were to do that, it immediately removes predation from where I placed it. So you can definitely use overwhelming slashes. If you're trying to do a parse, I do somewhat recommend overwhelming slashes, as it will give you a little more rage to utilize in your parse. And make things a little bit easier to make sure that you have as much rage or focus as you need. This is a non-choice. You automatically get Rupture no matter what. Level 39, you'll get Blood Wave and Rupturing Rage. Where 100% Force Fracture doesn't even exist. Don't ever take this. No. Plain and simple. Unless you really want to experiment, you want to try and create a rotation for it, feel free to do that. I don't recommend it. Blood Wave, really good for AoE, and then Rupturing Rage doesn't really do anything for us. The only time that you're really going to spam Rupture is if you have Blood Wave and there are ads. So this isn't that useful. There's very few fights in the entire game where NPCs get healing, so the trauma is kind of useless as well. This is definitely more meant for PvP. But even then, you could also just deal more damage by dot spreading. So that's how this works. You apply your dots to your main target. You spread by using Smash or Force Sweep, and then you hit a Rupture, and any targets really freaking close within like a meter or two will take damage. So overall, I've been sticking to Blood Wave, especially once I originally we didn't know how this fully worked. We now do. I just keep it on Blood Wave. You can definitely use Rupturing Rage. That doesn't exist. Level 43 is kind of the reason why this video is taking so long to get out. We're going to be here a minute. I have gone back and forth on these two abilities. Just like Force Fracture, this doesn't exist. Don't ever take this. If you want to do damage and you want to be at the top of your parse, you're going to take Blood Fury. Extra damage is always going to be good, especially if you know how to generate your Fury. If you don't know how to generate your Fury, which the rotation that I'm going to provide today, you will be able to generate it pretty consistently. We are going to kind of change some things around and change some rules on how our rotation works. But you should be able to do it. There are definitely fights where things will down. You lose rage, you lose your fury building. It'll be kind of hard to restart, but you can restart. You can restart back at the top of your parse, or at the top of your rotation, and you can definitely get things going. So Blood Fury is my main recommendation if you know what you're doing with the class. If you do not know what you're doing with the class, that's what Bleeding Center is for. This is going to teach you and kind of hold your hand, and it's going to do a lot of the hard work for you. So I do warn against it a bit, because timings are going to be off. You're going to build Fury a lot faster, and sometimes it's even a little bit slower because it is relying on your bleeds or burns critically hitting for you to build the two Fury centering. That's what it is. It literally just came back to my mind. Sorry. So for you Sentinels, your centering. It doesn't always occur, and it takes 2 seconds for it to go through. So it's not always reliable. It does make it a lot easier to build Fury, and you can build Fury while you have stacks of Zen or Berserk, but it's very handicapish, and it will kind of interfere with everything that you want to be doing. I do recommend it if you are learning the rotation. It's not bad to have to learn the rotation so that way you can have more uptime with your Fury. And then once you feel way more confident, once you have more of our rotation memorized, then swap over to Blood Fury and start getting your timings down, okay? But at the end of the day, I do recommend Blood Fury once you're proficient with the class. If you're learning and you need help building Fury, Bleeding Center. And you will notice that there is a pretty big difference in parses. You will be at there is about 1,000 to 1,500 difference in parse between these two. It's pretty much how it always comes out. I've had a few good parses with Bleeding Center, but I've had the most success with Blood Fury. Okay, Annihilate's given to you, and then level 51. 99% of your fights defensive roll. There's a few fights where if you're really getting knocked around a lot, Interloper. This doesn't matter. If there's something where you're really getting stunned a lot, okay, I would recommend Inexorable. You're just for the 30-second cooldown on Unleash. The Rage Generation, it's meh, whatever. It's not the Rage Generation that we want. So more or less, don't take this. If you're getting knocked around a lot, Interloper, so you can just immediately leap back. You'll almost always be able to leap back. Dashard is the first boss of Scum and Villainy, is a good example. I would definitely take Interloper over defensive roll, but 99% of the time, defensive roll. You get given Deadly Saber, you don't get a choice in it. You can take Cloak of Annihilation or Blood Ward, kind of just depending on what you're doing. If you're doing PvP, I would recommend Blood Ward so you can avoid getting stunned. But Cloak of Annihilation, you can use this so that way you can pop Cloak of Pain and you can go stand in Stupid. Kind of your choice there. Level 68, goodbye Force Choke. Compared to two really good defensives, we're never using this again. So don't waste your time on Force Choke, folks. You need to survive more than you need to stun. Okay? There are certain fights where you need Mad Dash, either because you need to get back to a target, or you need to cheese out a mechanic. Mad Dash is a defensive. While you are doing Mad Dash, it will resist most damage, just flat resist. You can't be killed in certain fights, so definitely Mad Dash in a lot of cases. And then anytime you don't need Mad Dash, you are taking Undying Rage. Level 73 in our last line for the tree. Most of the time, take Brazen. Yeah, it builds you Fury when you take damage, and it's a 2% damage reduction. Thirst for Rage, if you're going to use Bloodthirst early, or Inspiration early, you would want to take this. You can use it to build you 12 your full stacks of Rage, so you can start off a fight immediately with full Rage. And you get a little bit of healing, so it does make up for the damage reduction loss when you're not taking Brazen. However, I do like building that Fury because it's whenever you are attacked, and it's actually faster than Bleeding Center. So I do like that a little bit. So you can, go stand in some stupid very briefly and get like 2-4 Fury built, so long as it's not going to one-shot you. Okay. So long as it's not going to one-shot you, it's pretty useful. It helps with your Fury building a little bit. It will give you odd numbers a lot of the time. Not much you can do about it. So that is our ability tree. And my recommendations. This took a lot of testing. A lot of testing. I would think I was like, all right, the Bleeding Center is it. This is what I'm going to go with, and then drain Blood Fury. I would, use Blood Fury again, and then it would be amazing. And then in Bleeding Center, and I almost always was disappointed with my numbers when using Bleeding Center, because Blood Fury just gives you more damage, just plain and simple. You're gonna have better parses when you use Blood Fury. It won't initially, but once you kind of get the flow of things, you're gonna do better with Blood Fury. Trust me. It's gonna take time to be proficient, but that's why I'm here, so that way I can show you how to be proficient with Blood Fury. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what this is you're building Fury so you can pop Berserk, so you can get the 4 times damage on your initial use of Force Rend. And then you're building Fury so you can use Berserk, so you can use Force Rend, so you can get that 4 times damage on initial use. And so that's pretty much what we're doing here. That is what we're doing. And yeah, that's Annihilation in 7.0 for you. Right, so we're gonna transfer over to gear here. I have 8 more gold Augs. I know that doesn't add up when you look at how many gold Augs I have. I need 8 more gold Augs. This is all gonna get filled in with gold accuracy. And then this is an alacrity that I'm going to change out to crit, and I need to get another crit. So I have 2 more crit gold dogs and 6 more accuracy, and this helmet's going to get changed out to the Pummeler's helmet. And then I will be best in slot for everything. So that's my goal. Is to be best in slot. Super close, but I actually have quite a bit I have to replace. Rip me. But that's not why I'm here. Guys, get your Ricotta gear. Go do Nephras. Get good at your rotation, no matter what spec you're doing. Meet whatever stupid, silly parse number that they're requiring you to, and get your gear. Just get it. Build it from 320 upwards. Force it. Honestly, it's way easier than trying to build a whole nother set of gear, and then it's too much trouble. I'd rather just focus on one set of gear. That's what I've done here. But what I want to talk about are these guys, because this is what matters for us. We do want the Dispatcher package over the Fearless Victor's package. This is just, it works better for us because we actually do use dual saber throw quite a bit. And not only that, any critically hitting weapon attack generates a rage. Okay? That's really good. It just is. It makes it so that way we don't need assault as much, and we don't need battering assault as much. We still need battering assault. Sometimes you do just need to, get a whole bunch of rage, but we don't need assault. I leave assault simply because there are moments where, oh, I need to build rage, and Forcer and battering assault are on cooldown. Assault. It's good to just have it on your bars. Okay? So this doesn't get rid of the need for assault, but it does reduce the use of it down to almost zero. Almost zero. Sometimes, especially using Blood Fury, you need to hit an assault. Sometimes. And then, of course, this is pretty universal for all of the Marauders, Berserker's Call. You should be using this. Just a blanket 5% damage dealt is really good. The main reason we are not using Fearless Victors is because Fearless Victor applies to weapon damage, to melee attacks, and weapon and melee damage honestly only constitute 40% of our damage done. Most of our damage is coming off of our dots, as it should, since we're a dot class. So these just work better, and the damage dealt by 5% increase. It blankets. It also applies to our dot damage. So these are definitely what you want to be using. Okay, guys. Tacticals, get Spiteful Saber. This is the only one that you need. If you look here, this is Cauterized Coronary. This is just purely for when I go do Fury spec. That's why I have that. Hidden Power, we're going to take a moment to talk about this. Some of you may not know what this does. As you can see, it says that it does when you use Force Camouflage and you have this on, you generate 2 rage per second. This is really useful because it's going to allow us to remove battering assaults from the rotation, from the opener, because what you want to do, and I'm going to move this up as much as possible here. You can also hotkey tacticals, and you can swap them. So pressing my Shift +5, I just swapped out my Spiteful Saber. And then Malmoro Mask is also our AoE. I don't use it that much. I tend to forget I even have it. Don't waste my time on it that much, because I like Spiteful Saber so freaking much. I really do. But you can hotkey it, so you can just swap them out. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. It's just fun to do that. But if you pay attention right here, I'm going to move my mouse back and forth here so you can see where I want your attention. See that black bar? That's my rage bar. Lets me know how much rage I have. Currently is 0. If I hit Force Camo, boom, you can see I'm building rage, building rage, building rage. And right here, you heard I went invisible. I can now swap back to Spiteful Saber. You want to do this just before you fight. When there's a ready check, I will swap off to Hidden Power. I'll build my rage. Then I'll ready up because I will have enough. So long as your raid team actually does engage the opponent, you can definitely have enough rage where you can just, jump in. You can take out Battering Assault from your initial use. Also, your Force Charge will generate you back a bit of rage as well. So if you do have a little bit of loss, it's not detrimental for you to use it. So very useful trick. So that way you can use more of your abilities sooner. And you don't have to, rely on Thirst for Rage for Bloodthirst to give you 12 Rage. And so you can use Bloodthirst in a more appropriate spot if the fight calls for it. Sometimes you can just pop off Bloodthirst immediately, or if your raid group wants you to start off with Bloodthirst, always talk to your raid team about how raid buffs should be used, and talk to your raid lead if you are not the raid lead yourself. But definitely practice doing this. Swap between Spiteful Saber and Hidden Power. Do your camo. And what I do is, just so I don't forget, and boom, you already saw it. It's already swapped. It's already generating me the effect applied. Just spam it so that way you don't forget to reapply Spiteful Saber. I've gone into fights where I didn't have it on me because I forgot. And once you're engaged, you cannot swap out your tacticals. So always keep that in mind. When doing this, you need to swap it. I definitely recommend practice it. All right, so that's it for this window. We're going to go ahead, jump into the rotation now. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to rearrange my bars for each line of the rotation. I'm going to go over it. I'm going to discuss each ability in the rotation, why it's important, why you need to use it, how you're going to use it, what you're doing simultaneously as you're doing it. So it's going to be a relatively long breakdown of the rotation. Then I will show you the rotation. I will do 2 dummy tests, one with Blood Fury and one with Bleeding Center, just so you guys can see the differences between the two, what you can expect, everything to kind of look like, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts and get you guys out of here. I know I'm already 30 30 minutes in here, but all very important information for you guys to know. I will be making, just real briefly before we jump to the rotation, I will be making a gearing guide for purple augments and gold augments, as it's all kind of universal for DPS. It is a different thing for healing and tanking on how you want to gear those 2 roles. So it will be a pure DPS gearing guide. And you can kind of use the same setup for pretty much any class. There's a couple where you want to use specific things, but you can use this pretty universally for any class. And the most important thing will just be getting your implants for whatever role you want to use, okay? So let's go get that rotation done. All right, guys, rotation time. So we're only kind of concerning ourselves with probably this little bit. We'll see as we go through. I'm only going to use this bit, unlike the last time in the 6.0 where I had the stuff up here. I'm using a different editing program. I'm still learning it, so I'm not going to get too fancy here. So I'm just going to swap things around down here. We're going to go over precast and our first line of the opener. So I'm going to precast. There we go. We're going to channel hatred, or you can use your toys as well, whatever you prefer. They all do the same thing, which is building our fury or censoring for our sentinel friends. You want to do that. And then, like I said earlier, hidden power, we're going to swap to that. And we're going to build our rage. Okay? Boom, 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 boom. And then we're going to get Spiteful Saber back on. I'm going to leap at the dummy just to show you that you will build your rage. And that will also, for most fights, is going to be the first thing that you do. So we're leaping, boom. As you can see, it gives you back your rage. And you're all set in that regard. So I've got plenty of rage to use to just go through this opener. Okay. Actually, I need to swap these around real quick. So this is going to be your new opening line. Right here is going to be Deadly Saber, Annihilate, Rupture, Force Rend, Ravage, Vicious Slash, and Dual Saber Throw. This is going to be a little different depending on the proc Dual Saber Throw whenever that comes in. We'll talk about it once we get at the end of the first line here. But first things first, let me go ahead and build back my Fury here for you. So there's a lot. This is going to take a lot because this is kind of the main difference between 6.0 rotation and 7.0 rotation. It's just this first line of the opener. After that, it's all the same. But I will go through each line with you guys. There's a lot of theory that I kind of want to convey to you guys, and I want to reinforce filler to you guys as well. So definitely want to do that, and of course I will be moving my bars as we do this. I really wish I didn't take Brune Mark back. He's in my way, but it's okay. You just chill there, my murderous, revenge-filled friend. So I'm going to build this up here, and we will be attacking the dummy on and off. I don't care about parsing at the moment, so we're not going to have it on. So as you can see, I'm more than ready. I can just pop Deadly Saber, and I can get a Annihilate, and we're good to go. We already have a Dual Saber proc. But as you can see, starting off with Deadly Saber and Annihilate, that allowed me to apply a dot, do massive damage, instead of normally in 6.0 we would have done a Battering Assault to build our rage up. And since we're doing this little trick, it's not as needed to do that, so we can just immediately go into damage dealing. Not only that, Annihilate, or Merciless Slash, I think it's called, or Watchman, will also apply Devious Wounds, so you'll also get this. So that first little bit of dots that get put on are doing increased damage for 4.5 seconds, which is really, really freaking good. But so now, Rupture is not the next thing that we're going to do. I'm just being lazy. I'm not moving Berserk and my Adrenal up into the rotation line, because these are side things that you're doing throughout the fight, especially Berserk here, because we're going to pair this off with Force Rend. Okay, so the reason we're doing Rupture first is we're actually we want to pop Berserk, and we want to start wasting off some of our. I should just put this back where I'm used to it being, so I can use it better to demonstrate for you guys. And I'm going to build all this back up briefly, but pretty much we want to kind of start wasting the Berserk stacks before we hit Force Rend. I'm just going to back up here. I'm going to demonstrate it real quick for you guys. Boom, boom, popping this stuff off. So you can see I went from 6 to 5, and then using that, boom, I did all that damage. Norm 6 is usually my Ravage, so I'm a little off there. But all of that, we got rid of our our Berserk stacks kind of quickly. So that way I can immediately start, once I get into my filler, I can just start wailing away, and I can start building my Fury back. There we go. I can start building my Fury back, so I can get to Berserk sooner, so I can do one ability to waste Berserk, then the Force Rend. So you don't necessarily want to hit Berserk, hit Force Rend. It's very fun to do that, and it's a habit I'm trying to break myself at the moment. But you do want something in between, because we aren't taking Bleeding Center, we are having a harder time building Fury. So the more time that we don't have the Berserk stacks in the way, that's more Fury building up time. So it becomes like this very close knit on on the dot. You're doing everything just as things are coming off cooldown type deal. And it it's really, and it's just really good to do so, because your parse is going to just be way higher. Um, um, it just is. So that's why we're doing. You're gonna go Deadly Saber, Annihilate, and you can do this. You can do Berserk and your Adrenal in any order you want. But the important thing is Berserk, Adrenal, or Adrenal Berserk, then Rupture to burn away a Berserk stack, then Force Rend, then Ravage, burn away even more. And you can choose, if it's procced, you can do dual Saber Throw. If it's not procced, just start in with your Vicious Slash. Until Deadly Saber is available, hit a Vicious Slash. By that time, you'll probably have a dual Saber Throw proc if it hasn't already procced. And you'll get, no matter what, the moment your Berserk is available, you're going to pop that. You're going to do an ability, and then just after doing that ability, your Force Rend will be available. Okay? And then you move on, which technically the Ravage and 2 fillers, which is going to be probably the proc to dual Saber Throw. It doesn't always proc. Or 2 Vicious Slashes, kind of depending. That's more, these first 7 abilities are more of your opener. And then, of course, also Berserk and Adrenal, kind of existing between your second and third ability. That's where you kind of want to pop them off. If you're going to use Bloodthirst to start off with, you'll do Deadly Saber, Annihilate, then Bloodthirst, Frenzy, so you get your 30 stacks and you can pop Berserk. You're going to do that. You can also do it, so long as you don't use Force Rend. You can also do it Berserk, Frenzy, Bloodthirst, then Force Rend. The main interaction here is your Frenzy and Force Rend. You need to make sure that you're not popping your Force Rend when you have a full 30 stack, because you're going to lose out on the 10 Fury that Force Rend now builds you. And if you paid attention, it will actually build you 11 stacks, because just from using Force Rend, you get 1 Fury. So it will give you 11 stacks of Fury when you use it now, so long as you are using Draining Center. Okay, so we're going to go over that one more time. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do the full thing, just up until, up to number 7. And then I'll rearrange my bars for the next line of the opener. So we're gonna build up our Rage, swap back to Spiteful, and I'm just gonna leap in here. Boom. And as you can see, we just barely got it. There you go. And that's your first line. All right, so give me just a second to rearrange my abilities, and we'll go over line number 2. All right, so moving on to line number 2. Here's where we're actually going to kind of talk about filler and our new priority system. So in the old filler priority system, which I always kind of just make Vicious Slash the symbol for my filler, as it is going to be your most used filler ability. Vicious Slash is now your main priority. If you have been watching me live stream, or if you do come watch me live stream, and you pay attention to what I'm doing, you'll kind of notice that I'm letting procced dual saber throw kind of just sit there and lament and exist. And the reason for that is the Fury building. Because Dual Saber Throw doesn't build me Fury, I don't always want to use it because I am on the clock. I am fighting against Force Ren's 11.1 second cooldown. Because I got to get rid of my Berserk stacks and I got to get building Fury again. And you'll notice sometimes I will sacrifice something that will build me Rage, or I'll sacrifice a proc Dual Saber Throw to make sure that I get my full 30 stack of Fury by using something like Vicious Slash, Vicious Throw, Rupture, or Annihilate, and Deadly Saber as well. Those are all your abilities that will build you Fury. Force Run does as well, but we're working against its cooldown, so we can't use it while it's on cooldown. But because I want to, I'm doing all that, I'm sacrificing those rage building. And sometimes, I have to sacrifice the Fury building for the rage building. It's a two-way street. It's kind of very dependent on my needs. But because I need Berserk to be at the ready for when Force Rend is ready and good to go, so that way I get that 4 times damage to turn Force Rend into a burst ability on top of being a dot. You need to use that. You need to do that. So our new priority list comes in Fury building over Rage. And then if you're low on Rage, you need to, and that you have to build it. You're not going to be able to do things if you don't have the Rage. Then it becomes Rage over Fury building. Of course, if you're going down the line in the rotation, it won't. You should be okay. You should be good, especially if you're doing Berserk and ability, then Force Rend. That should eat up quite a bit of your Berserks, of your Berserk stacks. Okay, that's kind of the gist of what we're doing here in 7.0. So, new priority for the filler is going to be Vicious Slash. It's now number 1 priority. You need to build your Fury. Then it will be Vicious Throw once it becomes available to you. To the point that Vicious Throw kind of overtakes Vicious Slash, but because you can do Vicious Slash kind of instantly, you don't have a cooldown on it. I would still say it edges out Vicious Throw. Then I would say proc to Dual Saber Throw, and then your Rage Builders, Battering Assault, and Assault, and then Rupture is still kind of a low-level thing. I would kind of say it's more tied with Battering Assault. Assault is now you're desperate. That would be like you all of a sudden you have no Rage. You've been spending a second or two just doing nothing. Hit the Assault so you have Rage, but if Battering Assault is available, use Battering Assault instead of Assault. That is definitely your filler priority list. So Vicious Slash, Vicious Throw once it's available, Dual Saber Throw, Battering Assault, and Rupture are kind of tied, all depending on your needs and what you're doing. For the most part, if you're not in an AoE environment, there aren't a bunch of ads and they're not all stacked together, don't use Rupture. You're still pretty much only using this once, as much as possible. If the Rupture dot does fall off, obviously use it. You need to reapply your Rupture dot. And then, of course, if there's ads, extra enemies, and make sure you take Blood Wave so you can do some AoE damage as well. And then, of course, Assault is kind of just the tail end now. So these two kind of swapped spots, and Vicious Slash is now way more important. But as for the actual line of of our second line of the rotation. It's going to be Vicious Slash, more than likely. This could also be a dual saber, a procced dual saber throw, kind of depending on whenever dual saber throw procs. It could have procced in the previous line, just after the Ravage. It could have been one GCD after the Ravage. You're gonna kind of throw it in there when you can. Typically, right here is when you should expect your Berserk to be available again. So that way you can do another filler ability. This is not saying that these three spots are Vicious Slash. Vicious Slash is just my symbol for filler. This spot could also be a proc dual saber throw. Sometimes I've waited on my dual saber throw because I need to build Fury. It's just more important. And so I'll build my Fury. I'll get like 3 or 4 Vicious Slashes in after the Ravage from the previous line, and the Deadly Saber. That will get you to, once you hit here, you'll hit the Berserk. You should have your 30 stack by then. And then I will do my dual saber throw. That will eat up 1 to 2 Berserk stacks. Then the Force Rend. Then we go into the Annihilate, and then a filler. I left the dual saber throw there, just because it was convenient. But this is also a filler, more than likely. I'll give it a solid 90% chance a Vicious Slash. Okay, so filler, Deadly Saber, filler. Filler. I'll restart. A filler ability, Deadly Saber, a filler ability, which should give you Berserk, which you will then pop. Vicious filler. I was reading the little window over there. Then Force Rend, then Annihilate, and then a filler. And so any of this, like if you're for some reason low on rage, this could be a battering assault. If you're really low on rage and you've already used battering assault. But pretty much right here is where the line ends. I'm kind of using Force Charge as a kind of barrier of sorts. So that is line number 2, and you're going to see the pattern. I'm trying to do Berserk, then an ability, then Force Rend. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to line number 3. Okay, now line number 3, it's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be 3 fillers. Again, this it's a priority system. This can be anything in our filler priority list, which the abilities are still the same from 6.0 as to what is in the list, just as I've said earlier. The priority has shifted a bit. Vicious Slash over Dual Saber Throw, Rupture over Assault. But once you have all of your stuff built, you will swap. You're kind of just waiting for the right moment to pop Berserk and Force Rend. And I'll go ahead and say here, I'm actually just gonna do something that will give me a cooldown here. So I'm gonna use Ravage real quick. So set yourself up here with the countdown. It's letting me know when my Ravage will be available. This is your cooldown text, which you can find if you go into your preferences and you go to UI and just scroll down until you get here to cooldown settings. I pretty much just hit showdown cool text. You can change some of the styles, choose what you prefer. I just like style 1. It's simple and isn't confusing. I know some people that will leave abilities like this. I'm like, why is your thing not available? It should be available with whatever energy management you have. Crazy, but do set that up, because I'm going to go ahead and use Force Rend here. So we're working. This is what we're working against. This is our time. You should be building. Right about here, you should have 30 stacks of Fury. At the same time, once we get back down there, you should be like at 2 seconds. So, boom, right there, right at that 2 second mark, is when you should have your berserk. That's when you're gonna pop it. You're gonna do another ability like Vicious Slash, then the Force Rend. And so to demonstrate that real quick, I'm gonna go ahead, build up here. Boom, popping it, ability, Force Rend. Okay, that is how it should pretty much go. So it should be, you get your 30 stack, you hit Berserk once you see 2 seconds on Force Rend, you hit an ability, then you hit the Force Rend. And as you saw, I got rid of 4 of my Berserk stacks just from pretty much doing that. You don't want to do it too soon, because if you do it too soon, I'm just going to build up here. Boom, get some rage. If you were to pop this too soon and you just, let's get some of our stuff on here, boom, and throw it away, you can actually end up burning away all of your Berserk stacks before Force Rain goes out. So you do want to keep it to Berserk and ability Force Rend. So that way you make sure Force Rend gets that 4 times damage. If you do too many abilities and all your dots are applied, and you can actually just instantly gone. And then you didn't get the 4 times damage with Force Rend, and then your Parse is going to drop. You're going to look bad, and people are like, I thought you were supposed to be an amazing parsing class and whatnot. So just the pro tips there. Okay. And then so going over the line now for you guys, it's going to be a filler, Deadly Saber, Ravage, and then another filler. I'm just too lazy to go grab another Vicious Slash. That's the reality. So we're using Dual Saber Throw and Vicious Slash as the symbols for our filler here, because I am too lazy to go grab it. I may be forced to in the next line to grab another Vicious Slash out of my ability window, but we'll see what we're working with. But anyway, so it'll be 3 filler, Deadly Saber, and probably around here-ish is possibly, yeah, probably around here you should have Berserk waiting for you to go. You'll go through the Ravage. As soon as that ends, you should be popping your Berserk. You should be doing your filler here, and then your Force Rend. Okay? So let's go ahead and jump into the last line of the opener, and then we will be working on our core, which that is what you're going to be repeating for the rest of the fight. All right, last line of the opener, and we're just going to go straight into it. So after that Force Rend from the previous line, it's going to be Annihilate, followed by 4 fillers. I was forced to go grab another one. I couldn't be lazy. And then a Deadly Saber, and more than likely, at this point, you're going to need a Battering Assault. Just more than likely, call it a hunch. This point in the rotation as we go from opener to core, it's going to be a Battering Assault. You may need it a little bit sooner over here. So again, we're using Vicious Slash. I'm not saying use Vicious Slash here. We're just using it as our symbol for our filler list. More than likely, it's going to be Vicious Slash. But there's also a possibility you may need Battering Assault over here to use. And so it's just a possibility. You may need Battering Assaults a little bit sooner. But typically right here, I find myself a lot of time I'm just about out of rage, and it's a perfect spot for a Battering Assault. I almost kind of always say This is actually 4 fillers, a Deadly Saber, and then Battering Assault. More than likely, it will just always be Battering Assault in this position, even though this is a filler spot. Sometimes, you'll need Battering Assault a little bit sooner, but typically, if you're doing everything correctly, this should be the best spot to use Battering Assault. Okay? But sometimes you will need it sooner, and so this could also be a Vicious Slash, or even a procced Dual Saber throw, kind of depending on your Fury. More than likely, you should be good on Fury at this point. This should be, so you could actually use a Dual Saber throw here, since both Battering Assault and Dual Saber throw don't use or don't build you Fury. So if this is a non-Fury building spot anyway, you can use Dual Saber throw if you're good on Rage. But if you're not, if you're good on Rage but you're not good on Fury, you use a Fury building skill like Vicious Slash. Okay, so that is line number 4. It's pretty simple. It's kind of just whatever you need. Okay, more than likely Vicious Slashes, more than likely a Battering Assault. These are all 90% Vicious Slashes. This is 90% Battering Assault. 10% chance, right here you need a Battering Assault. 10% chance, that you have a proc Dual Saber throw and you can put it right here. But the priority is you're building your Fury back. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the core. All right, and the first line of the core is pretty simple. It's actually a kind of it's a even shorter line version of the opener, where Deadly Saber has already been applied, and we already kind of had something used before this Annihilate. But we will start off with Annihilate, followed by Force Rend, followed by Filler, more than likely Vicious Slash, which right here, which I'm kind of actually in the transition period between going from the last ability used in the opener and right here when you use Annihilate right here. So kind of, actually, I can actually just do this to demonstrate for you. So right here. So this is the ending of the opener. This is the start of our core. This right here, the transition. This is where you should be using Berserk. Okay? So you want to hit Berserk, and you will go into the Annihilate, then the Force Rend. So again, we're maintaining that Berserk and ability, then Force Rend. And in this little section here, these next few abilities, we're just burning away the Berserk. And hopefully right here, if not here, this is where we'll start building our Fury. So I'm going to move this back out of the way, since it's not technically part of the line. There you guys go. So right here, just before the Annihilate, hit the Berserk, hit the Annihilate, hit the Force Rend, then it's back to filler time, Ravage, and then 2 fillers. All 3 of the fillers more than likely a Vicious Slash. Okay. And don't forget as well, when you're using that Berserk, it is a 5% increase in damage. And since we're using Annihilate, we're also getting the 3% increase to our bleed damage. So for our bleeds, they're getting 8% every time we go into this line. It's 8% extra damage every time we go into this line, which is huge. Very powerful. So always keep that in mind. Remember, we want to do our best to get to use Berserk, then Annihilate, and then Force Rend, and then Vicious Slash, and then Ravage, and then the filler, and followed up by 2 more filler. Okay, so that transition period between opener and core, our repeatable core, is where we're going to use Berserk. I didn't want to put Berserk up here because, again, this is a secondary thing. You're doing this in between cooldowns. Um, it's not something that you should really be wasting on. It's not generating you a global cooldown when you use Berserk. It is instant. There's no global cooldown. You don't have a second or two of just not being able to use abilities when you activate Berserk, which is why I'm not putting it up here. But that right there is where you want to use Berserk, and then Annihilate, and then the Force Round. So moving on to line number 2. All right, so line number 2, we're going to start it off with another Annihilate, followed by a Deadly Saber, a Vicious Slash, and right here should be a Berserk. Because again, we're seeing an ability before a Force Round. So anytime you see this setup, that means right here, as you do this ability, you should be doing a Berserk, then the next ability, and then Force Rend. And right here, it should be 2 seconds before Force Rend becomes available. Okay? And then we're going to follow it up with 2 more fillers. More than likely, Vicious Slash. Do apply rage building abilities as you need them. So if this needs to be a battering assault, it can be a battering assault. More than likely, you should be good on rage. You should be okay. But if you need to build it, build it. And of course, proc dual saber throw either before the Force Rend or just after the Force Rend. Perfectly good time to use it. Because it's going to make your next Vicious Slash critically hit, and a critically hitting melee attack is going to generate you a rage. So you'll actually kind of notice your rage whenever you're critically hitting with your melee attacks may not eat into your rage because it built you back rage, and then it took it away. So you'll kind of just see it just not move. So if I have 4 rage and I used a critically hitting Vicious Slash, and my next it won't generate me a rage, and it won't take away a rage. It'll just stay stagnant. It'll stay there, and then I can use an Annihilate, which needs 4 rage. And if that critically hits, it may not eat into my rage as much or at all. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Okay, so that is line number 2. 2 more lines to get through. All right, line number 3. Pretty simple. I believe it's actually the same as line number 3. It's pretty similar to line number 3 in the opener. Instead of starting with a filler, we are starting with Annihilate. If you haven't noticed, the pattern with the core is each line starts with Annihilate. So it's going to be Annihilate, then your filler, then a Deadly Saber and Ravage, and then right here should be a Berserk. So that means when you hit this Deadly Saber, that got you your 30 stack. And then right here, it should be Berserk, then the filler, and sometimes depending, just on the fight, this ability it will happen, and it all takes practice. Don't get frustrated if it's not all lining up. Trust me, it's taking me time. I'm still, breaking some habits here myself, and trying to more line it up with Berserk. So I'm learning with you guys. Don't think that I'm not learning with you, but Berserk ability, then Force Turn. So after the Ravage, you should have a Berserk ready to go. You hit it here, then the filler, and then the Force Strand. Okay, so that will be line number 3 of the core. Alright, guys, and we have made it to line number 4. Last line of the core. And then we repeat at the start of the core. And then we just do that indefinitely forever and ever and ever until whatever we're attacking dies. Okay? So let's go ahead and go over it. It's going to be an Annihilate, followed by 4 fillers. And then it's going to be a Deadly Saber. And then more than likely a Battering Assault. So this line is the exact same line as the line number 4 in the opener. Okay, so we're gonna repeat that same line. All right, and we're just gonna copy it, and then right after you use that filler, and I'm gonna move the force charge. It'll be a berserk. This should generate you your 30 stack, your berserk, because you're gonna go right back into the first line of the opener. Which will start off with an Annihilate, followed up by a Force Rend. So it's more looking like this, but I do like the 7 ability look. It's a little bit cleaner. I don't know why. I like it. But this is what it will look like. It's the exact same as the last line of the opener. So once you memorize that, you've already remembered your last line of the core. And then just as a reminder for you, we'll go ahead and I'll do it live here since it shouldn't take me too much time to set it up. Boom. Yeah. And then we'll take that away and I'll reset that. So this will be your opener again. So remember right here, once you finish with the last line of the core, you're gonna hit your berserk before you hit the Annihilate, so that way Annihilate eats away one of your berserk charges, and then Force Rend will eat away one of your berserk charges, and then a filler, and then Ravage followed by 2 more filler, and then we go into line number 2. And that is pretty much what you're gonna do. You're just gonna repeat those 4 lines of the core over and over and over and over. I will say this, it doesn't always work out. You will lose your spot. Trust me. It takes a lot of practice to have this memorized. And as you remember things, as you go and fight operation bosses, flashpoints, you will kind of find your cooldowns kind of matching up with lines of the core. And the more you practice it, the more you're going to recognize these cooldown patterns and you go, oh, cool, I can jump in here. I know what I'm doing. Okay? So it does take a lot of time. It takes practice. Practice, 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 practice. Practice makes perfect. Okay, guys? It is a lot. I know. Trust me. It took me quite a while to kind of figure all of this out. Hopefully, you guys go and get your hidden power tactical if you haven't already gotten it. This will allow you to shorten your opening line, and you'll do more damage. And it takes away a lot of the rage building that you have to sit through initially from the 6.0, and it's just way more helpful. Okay, guys? So I'm going to reset up my bars to where I like them, at how I have them set up. Put your bars wherever you want. I highly, highly, highly recommend learn how to hotkey, learn how to use it. There are definitely guys that are really good at, clicking on your stuff. You can definitely do it, and if you're good with it, perfect. There's a lot of flip-flopping. There's a lot of, you have split-second decisions to make. Am I building Rage? Am I building Fury? What am I doing? These are split-second decisions, and you will either set yourself up for success or you will screw yourself over. I highly recommend learn how to hotkey. Get a mouse that has a lot of hotkey buttons. This is not sponsored, but I do recommend the Razer Naga. Um, I believe it's newest edition, which is what I have. I believe I have the newest edition. You can actually change out how many keys that are on the side of the mouse that you can use with your thumb. It's how I have all this set up. I do all 36 of these abilities. I'm just hitting 1 through 12 on my mouse, and then it's control plus 1 through 12, and then shift 1 through 12. And it took me a little bit of time, but as I just said, practice makes perfect. Learn how to do it. It is faster because if I do that and I just spam, and I have my stuff out of order. If I spam, boom. As you can see here, you can see me spamming it as the hotkey is flashing. It saves you milliseconds, especially once you learn the positioning with your thumb. And however, whatever works for you, I recommend going with that. But you can definitely, you can definitely get stuff be a little bit faster. Speed does count to your parse. If you are slow, your parse will suffer for it. Okay, I just want to take this little bit of time to recommend to take the time, learn how to hotkey, get a good mouse that gives you good access to your buttons, so you don't have to. So that way, I can do stuff on the move. Boom. It makes it a little bit easier because I don't have to take my hand off movement to hit my hotkeys. Okay, it's so much easier. So much easier. But let me go ahead and change out my abilities back to the way I prefer them. And we'll do some parses, one using Blood Fury, one using Bleeding Censor, and then that'll be in the video. Real quick, I do just want to mention something I've kind of discovered. I'm actually going to swap here for you guys. Right now I am kind of recommending Serendipitous Assault and Focus Retribution. It may possibly change, though, for relics. Cutting myself off. But these are what recommended potentially for Annihilation. I may start recommending Devastating Vengeance, simply because I did test it out in place of Serendipitous Assault, and I may combo this off a little bit differently. More testing is required, but because critically hitting with a weapon attack generates 1 rage, with the increase to your crit from Devastating Vengeance, I have noticed a lot more rage generation. So potentially, when using Dispatcher, instead of using one of these two, if you use Devastating Vengeance, you're gonna hit more because you have a 30. You're gonna have so much. You're gonna have almost 3,000 more crit rating for 6 seconds. Any of your abilities in there are going to crit. Have a higher chance of critting. And you can generate more rage. So just something I'm going to be testing. I'll let you guys know what that is. If you guys want to test it, feel free to. Just something to make note of. Right. So we're gonna now jump over to the parsing. All right, we are all set to do our first parse with Blood Fury. as well as using overwhelming slashes instead of predation. You can use predation. You can actually pop this off. It kind of stabilizes your parse a little bit. It's kind of something interesting that I've seen a few people do on Parsley when looking at their rotations. Just something of note. You don't need it. You don't need it. Plain and simple. Um, and if you want to know how to set up your dummy, if you go talk to your droid wherever it is on your ship, if you, of course, if you are an Annihilation Marauder, it will be right here. If you talk to this little guy, you will buy this one and that one. And let's go ahead and get that little repair in. These two right here are what you'll use. And you see they're on my bars here. When you target the dummy, they light up. You can put them on. They're already applied. It will set its health to 6,500,000, and the its armor is reduced. So our parse will be far more accurate to what we're doing. Okay, so this will be Blood Fury first, and then Bleeding Center. I may do a voiceover to kind of talk through what I'm doing as I go through the rotation, but as for actual live recording, I'm not going to be talking. So I'm going to build my stacks of rage and then immediately get started. Okay, and that was Blood Fury. um, I had to adapt. I lost track of my position in the rotation. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be lulls in fights where you're just gonna lose your spot. But I stuck to what I'm setting out to do, which, as I repeated as we went over the rotation, Berserk and ability Force Rend. So long as I was kind of sticking to that, I was actually able to recover it a bit, um, and we went from kind of mid to high 28k into 29k to finish out, and we did kind of stay within the 29k 30k range. Um, uh, as we were doing everything. So it's a lot of like you got to make the decision uh, to prep yourself for later down the line in the rotation. So I was able to recover a little bit, and we still were in a very, very, very good spot. 29k is pretty good. There's really, if you go to Parsley, there's really not that many 29ks out there. So I'm actually like two or three of them. So definitely, uh, uh, just keep at it, keep practicing. Now I'm going to go ahead and transition over to Bleeding Center, and we'll take a look at what Bleeding Center has to offer, and then we'll finish up final thoughts, and yeah, and then we'll be all good to go practice and practice and practice and practice and become the best damn uh, Annihilation Marauders we can possibly be. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Oh, right. And that was Bleeding Cinder. As you can tell, there's a pretty drastic difference between the two in terms of uh, damage. It did not start off very well. And it was I managed to work it back up. I almost got us to finishing at 28k. I was super close to doing it. Um, but I have issues with Bleeding Center, mainly in that because of how fast we are building Fury, um, you're gonna get Berserk kind of sooner, which can be to your detriment. I do believe there was a moment where I all my fury was just gone because I popped Berserk a little bit too soon, and so one of my force friends suffered for it, and that could have been the difference between a 28k parse and this 27k 881 parse that I just did. So it's just that the 1500k that you get from using Blood Fury to all of your melee damage attacks while Berserk is active, just over the course of the fight, really freaking matters. It just does. It just does. And you saw me like I actually used Rupture. I used Rupture to continue. So there was a lot of to a degree. I feel like using Bleeding Center is way harder than it is to use Blood Fury, but because of the Fury building, um, I do kind of think if you can get a little bit used to it, and use it kind of just as a generic way of having Fury at the ready, Berserk was pretty much good to go. Uh, just by doing normal shit. You can pretty much take your 6.0 rotation, the rotation I gave you for the 6.0. If you take Bleeding Center, you're set. Okay, you're not going to do as much as as you can do if you choose Blood Fury over Bleeding Cinder. But if you practiced with the 6.0 rotation, um, you will definitely be set to go if you take Bleeding Center. Uh, but my recommendation, what I'm doing, is Blood Fury over Bleeding Center. I think that is it's just the way to do it, plain and simple. Um, yeah, it's just I think the better way. I have had a team member of mine use Blood Fury. I was using Bleeding Center, and there was a significant difference in our parses. We were doing pretty much the same thing. He was just doing more damage than me because Blood Fury does more damage. If you're doing parsing at a 28k consistently with Bleeding Center, or even a 29k or a 30k, let me know down below. I want to be proven wrong about Bleeding Center, but I've given it more than its fair shot. It has been outdone by Blood Fury almost at every corner, with very rare and few exceptions. I have done okay with Bleeding Center here and there, but I mean that's from doing many parses, and I can't repeat that success. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna take practice. It's gonna take practice. I really only say use Bleeding Center to kind of help you learn the rotation. You just kind of want to learn um, doing these abilities, and then transition to Blood Fury. Or you can just go straight into Blood Fury, learn the correct timings uh, with doing Berserk and ability, and then Force Rend. And again, Force Rend should be at like that 2 second mark to when it's available. You can pop Blood Berserk and then an ability and then Force Rend. And that's pretty much what 7.0 Annihilation is Berserk, an ability, Force Rend. That is more what you're doing. Like when I lost myself in the Blood Fury example, I kind of just built myself around that, and we worked back up to a 29K Parse, which is still really freaking good. It's not my personal best. Um, I think once I get the rest of my gold dogs, it'll be a little bit better. I'll have a little bit more power, a little bit more crit, um, and we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely looking to get into the 30Ks. That's kind of my goal at the moment with 330 gear. And if you have any tips or tricks, comment down below. Let everyone know what you're doing that's different from me. Um, and, uh, and yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, if you found it informative, if it is, if you think this was a good guide, uh, broke things down. I'm hoping that really the main thing I want to get across, I may even do another video just on it because it is so important. It is kind of everything that Annihilation does is the fillers. Um, so mainly subscribe, comment, all of that. Hit the bell button. It will help. I do want to grow this out. Now that I'm more or less kind of done gearing um, uh, for Annihilation, I am going to transition to Madness. I'm going to start going through that. I'm also going to start using Fury a little bit more, and I'll be doing a guide for that as well. For those two specs, because I am a Marauder and Sork. I don't know if I'm going to do Lightning, and I do eventually have some plans to be a okay healer, just for when there's a healer that's needed and it can't be found, I can swap off to healing. It's not something I really plan on focusing on. So I will, be doing stuff like this, and provide guides, not just to help out the community, but to help myself out, to help myself grow and learn as a player. But my focus will be Annihilation. If things change, if gearing wise something changes, I will update you all on that as well, of course. Look forward to my gearing guide for 7.0. I will provide a purple augment setup and a gold augment setup. I'm literally just waiting to get the rest of the mats that I need um, for the gold augs, and then I'll do that video. So it's gonna be a few more weeks before that happens. I was hoping I haven't been able to do a certain thing that we technically aren't supposed to do to get mats for augments as much as I would have liked. Um, I'm not saying what that thing is. You all know what it is, but more than likely. But yeah, so hopefully I'll have that out soon, so that way you guys for DPS, because this will be interchangeable. I am going to have it be interchangeable to help everyone out. And that's going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.